Welcome to another episode of the One of One podcast. I'm so grateful, so thankful to every single one of you who has been tuning in. Every single podcast that we've had has just been one of one. There's no other way to describe it. We've had such great conversations, great, authentic, organic, and natural, just flowing. And to be honest, I planned a lot of things. I never do. And we didn't have to. We didn't have to go on script. And I really love that because you as listeners can really feel like we're just having a one-to-one conversation, just like we're sitting here. So today, it's actually such a full circle moment. I'm so excited because I have my first ever business coach sitting right beside me here on the One of One podcast. And, this was never part of the business plan. I remember when we had spoken about what I wanted to do, but I remember that service was always tied to everything that I wanted to do. So today we're going to talk a little bit about sales, a lot about service, and what this entails when it comes to being one of a kind in your industry. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce her. She deserves the introduction, and you guys probably already know her from my Instagram, Authentic Gazzy. So Gazzy is a pioneer in ethical sales, empowers impact-driven entrepreneurs through revolutionary authentic sales methodologies. With a background shaped by engaging over 100,000 individuals in politics, Gazzy launched a mission-driven venture in 2020. Rejecting sleazy tactics, she champions selling that respects both seller and buyer. Her commitment extends to supporting women's empowerment initiatives and earning accolades from PwC engagements and Channel 14 features. In 2023, Gazzy achieved recognition as a top sales representative and introducing groundbreaking sales methodologies. Her mantra, Sales Beyond Scripts, the Art of Authentic Connections, defines her mission to transform sales through genuine, impactful connections and ethical practices. Gazzy, welcome to the One of One podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. I knew it was going to be one day, and the day is here. The podcast came to life. Yes.
It's here. It feels so different to talk in this space. I don't know about you, but if you have a coach and you're listening and kind of when things get accomplished and things get fulfilled, you're kind of like, oh, we're here. Yeah. Like we did it. Yeah. And so I'm grateful because I really couldn't have done this without you. And I've been sharing a little bit about my journey as to when I quit my bartending job, when I had confidence in movement. And it's crazy because all of these individuals are listening to it, but you've lived through every single episode I've had, every stage. She's known confidence in movement. She's known the outdoor dance lesson. She's known the in studio when we moved to Burlington, down to me quitting my job, starting content creation and marketing strategies. And now it's the podcast, and you've also shifted as well.
Yes. And I want to give you a shout out because I remember so clearly, maybe it was like a few months ago, you saying, okay, I really want to put out the podcast. Like now's the time. I'm feeling energized about this. And that's the journey of entrepreneurship. Like you set your mind to something, you tell somebody else about it, you get accountability, and then you take the action, and here you are. Like this is the journey of entrepreneurship. You're the example of what it means to create from the inside out.
Thank you. Wow. Thanks for saying that. Cause I feel like I've moved so fast that I feel like I don't really take the time to be like, oh, wow, I did the thing. And honestly, God has really been, I really feel like I didn't know what I was doing, and I still don't know. Let's be real. We never really do. But I really feel like I'm just trusting the process, and every single part of the journey reveals the next step, which is why I'm honored and I'm grateful. And, the podcast, how it started was because I really wanted to highlight, again, one of a kind individuals that have just been like shaking things up. They've really been doing the thing, and you have. And every time I think of you or I talk to somebody about you, they're just like, oh yeah, Gazzy, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about who Gazzy is, who you are, and kind of how you've come to this place of where you are. And after that, in this podcast, you can actually expect tactical, practical takeaways when it comes to selling authentically and organic, serving as a priority and a foundation of these sales. But like you said, no sleazy sales tactics, no like, that kind of vibe that we always get. We're going to be learning from Gazzy how she does that and how you as listeners can do the same, and how with her help, I've obviously done that as well through my business. So Gazzy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where to start? Okay, I feel like I got to take you even a little bit behind entrepreneurship before those days started, because I feel that that's where most people connect with me. I mean, if you've ever worked in a career where you didn't feel like you just loved it, or maybe you loved it, but you felt like there must have been more, that's where I spent a lot of my time before making the jump to entrepreneurship. And I was working in politics, and I had that, that career that most people think when you get there, you stay there. You get a job in government, it has the benefits, and, mom and dad are proud. It's what they wanted for you. But deep down inside, like, it's just not it. And sometimes you can't even explain it. Some people call it a whisper, a little nudge, but I just knew deep down inside there had to be something different. And honestly, some people know exactly what their passion is up front or what they're good at. And some people like me, like, I didn't really know. I'm multi-passionate. I kind of liked a few things. And so even thinking about entrepreneurship was kind of, I'm going to say, hard for me, because there wasn't a clear answer. Like, you're good at dancing, you'll start a dancing company, or you're good at creating content, let's make that your entire business. I wasn't really clear on that journey. And so a big part of my entrepreneurship journey was self-discovery. Who am I? What do I really love? And how can I help people? Those are the businesses that thrive, the ones that are focused on really helping people and making a difference. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had to sit with that for a while and be like, what can I really help people with? And at the end of the day, I mean, it's still evolving. And I think in entrepreneurship, you can relate. It's not linear. It's not like I'm going to do this and I do that. There's so many like twists and turns along the way. But I think the thing that remains true is I really want to help people do what they love. And there are lots of entrepreneurs that really love what they're doing and their journey. And because of my experience in sales and human relations, I kind of have an advantage because I teach selling in a very different way. And so I thought, okay, what if I could bring those together and help entrepreneurs who have really exciting business ideas, and bring my experience being a top sales rep and also having that experience in politics where it's all about human relationships. How can I bring that in a way that's going to be my business? And so now that's this iteration of this chapter where we're focusing on selling, and I would say doing it in a different way. And I think that's why I'm on One of One, because I'm not seeing a lot of people in the industry sell in the way that I am. And so I'm excited to have that conversation so more people can understand, like, sales doesn't have to be icky. Mm-hmm. You don't have to follow bro marketing. It doesn't have to be that way. And so now that's kind of the mission of this chapter, of sharing this new way of authentic connection and selling.
I love that. That's like, I can like pan out this journey for you. Like I can see as you're even speaking, and even through what you've shared with me, like, I just imagine you in politics and literally being like, this isn't for me anymore. Like I've kind of, hit it. And a lot of us face that in our own either entrepreneurship business industries, whether you've already are an entrepreneur and you are just, diving into another side hustle, or you do work a 9-to-5, or you do work a job in corporate or whatever that looks like. And you're like, I'm done here. Yeah. Right. And so I feel like that's such a bold move to take. I remember when I quit my bartending job, I walked away from really good cash tips. And I'm sure you walked away with out of a great government job. And I think the biggest thing is that we end up choosing ourselves. But you touched on something, and I remember, your first ever program was called Cash in Your Passion. And so when I took Gazzy's program, I was like, I want to cash in my passion, and I want to make money, and I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. I'm really great at building relationships, having conversations, being authentic, going up to people, telling them who I am, what I do, and how I can help them. Like, I love that. But what I didn't like to do and talk about, I'm sure a lot of people can relate, is being salesy. Yeah. It was always this thing hovering over our heads, being like, oh, like, we don't want to sell, and selling felt icky. And so I love that you said that, you help explore people and businesses how to do that. Can you tell me, like, I know what it is for me, But like, what is it for most people that get them stuck in that sales process or like selling or even actually from the beginning, like wanting to talk about their business, even simply?
It's such a difficult process for entrepreneurs. Like there's so many more difficult, intricate parts of building a business that entrepreneurs can do with ease. But the moment it comes to talking about your business, having a sales conversation, or even buying conversations, putting your product or service out there, that they start to overthink and get in their own head. And I would say rightfully so, because every single one of us, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, if I were to ask you, think about a time when someone either sent you a cold DM or tried to sell you something and you just felt that it didn't feel good. For some reason, it felt pressured. It didn't feel good. And most people have that experience in their lifetime. And so that's building a memory of what selling is for them. And the moment you start thinking, sales is icky or it feels weird, you're now projecting that in every single sales conversation, whether you have it or not. And so I think the first place that I like to start, and I think what has been a shift in the way I sell and also with the clients and corporate teams that we work with, is actually understanding what is it that we sell and why do we sell it? Why do we sell this product? Why do we sell this service? What's the purpose behind it? And in most cases, it's to help someone. I mean, if we think about your service, you create content for business owners. Why do you do that? Because you want to help free up business owners' time.
Yeah.
That's service.
Wow.
And so if we can connect more to that than anything else, that selling can be from this place of helping other people, it's just going to make selling feel so much easier. And obviously that's how you make more money.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that we talk about service, that we talk about, I mean, for me, I actually saw it that way at the beginning. I thought, well, I'm just helping people. Like, why do I have to sell to them? And what actually shifted my mindset is that I'm not selling. Essentially, I'm sharing. I'm sharing an opportunity with you. I'm sharing whether, again, it's to free up your time, to help you make more money, to help you enjoy your life more. I'm sharing. I'm suggesting. And so that's how I've started viewing sales after working with you and just even after conversations that I've had with people. And I thought, listen, we literally, like, from the clothes that you wear to how you have your hair done through to your rings, we are selling other people's products every single day. But when it comes to us, we don't want to talk about it because, again, we feel this pressure. And like you said, how we see things, how we see sales has impacted us because of, I don't know, family or people that have knocked on our door or DMs or those calls that we get all the time, right? Yes. And that has definitely something that it did affect me because I was like, I don't want to be like these people. I don't want to annoy people. But when you start to see your business as somebody's blessing and breakthrough, that kind of like shifts the gears. And it's like, well, I'm literally going to bless, like, this is supposed to bless you, not hold you back.
And so what if you didn't do that? Like, I even like to take that further of like, okay, so if you're an entrepreneur and you have a service or product that you know it will help people. So whether it's a lotion that will help their skin, whether it's a program that will help them with X, Y, and Z, if you know you're helping people, it's actually your duty to be of service. And if you've got something that can help people, why would you not share it? Like, what kind of a person are you if you're not sharing? And so that's something that just changes this idea of like, you're not bad to sell someone, you're helping them. Yeah. And if you're not selling them, you're actually doing them a disservice. So now this is a whole different way of thinking about selling.
Yeah. That is actually so good. Those layers I think are so important to unpack so that we actually see that if I don't tell you this level of information and either you don't invest or you don't buy, well, you're just going to be in the same place. And so I think that that was a huge shift for me once I started selling, realizing that, again, conversations, but also my audience would be in the same position and you're going to continue doing the same thing, expecting different results if you don't start working with me. And I think it's a level of confidence, but like you said, you touched on bro marketing. You want to talk about what bro marketing is for people who don't know or who people do know, like how to shift from bro marketing to maybe your sales process or a tip that you can give them?
Yeah, for sure. Well, bro marketing, I feel like we've all experienced a level of that. And I mean, if you just look at the content that you consume on a day-to-day basis, you're going to see what that looks like. And I would even say like it could be bro marketing, or we could even be talking about like traditional marketing methods.
Yes.
I think at this point in 2023, going into 2024, in this digital era where we're getting creative and selling literally in every corner, from the moment you wake up, you're on social media, you're being sold to, we got to start doing things in a fresh and authentic way. And for me, what bro marketing, if I were to give it a description, or like I talk about bro marketing or unethical marketing, I can't really explain exactly what it is, but I can tell you it's a feeling for me. So it's that feeling when either I read a caption, I see a story, I get an email, whatever the way is, but it just doesn't feel good. Whether there's pressure, there is urgency, there is scarcity, it's coming from a place of lack, it's coming from a place of push or force, it doesn't feel good. And my radar is quick. I can sniff that from a mile away. Like if you're sending me email marketing lines and like the hook is clickbait, or like you're trying to force me or be like, this offer is only available, run, like these unethical strategies of just forcing a sale. I think at this point, people are seeing through that. And so it's just about a fresh way of selling, and it's rooted in it feeling good. I don't even want to be too technical of like, you can't use these words or it can't be this way. It's a feeling that you feel good selling in that way. And when the buyer is coming across your marketing, whether it be content, email, sales conversation, that they feel good being sold to in that way.
Interesting. I love that. I like the word ethical and unethical. That really stands out to me. Now, in the traditional marketing behaviors and processes compared to the processes that you, and like for me, like they're top tier, they're one of one. Like nobody does sales with your methodology, and I think that that's so unique to any business owner, right? And I think it's important to note that like sales isn't a one size fits all. Yeah. And I think that everybody is so used to, I mean, I remember buying scripts and being like, how can I sell? Give me a script.
I've done it too. Like no shame in the game. We've been there, right?
Yeah. So how does one shift their sales process? Or if you can identify like something that should be in your sales process?
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll talk about the easiest and hardest one first. Sure. And it's before getting technical. And what I'm looking for when I'm creating a sales process, whether it be for an entrepreneur or for a corporate team, is that we're doing it in a way that is authentic, and we are showcasing what makes them one of one. So not trying to use somebody else's strategy or story or marketing tactic, really connecting to the entrepreneur, to the business, and really seeing what makes them authentically them, and how can we bring that to the forefront of the sales process. So what works for Sofia might not work for Gazzy, and what works for Gazzy may not work for Sofia. But the only way we can honor that is if we know, okay, well, who is Sofia? What makes you one of one? And how can we make that at the forefront of our process and how we sell?
That's so good. That's like a gem.
Like just be you. Like that's why I say it's the easiest
and the hardest,
because I could just tell someone be you, but I know it's not that easy because there's so many layers, and like we think there's a one size fits all approach, or there's an answer that's outside of us. And if I'm being honest, the months where our company makes the most amount of money, or our clients are making the most amount of money, is because they're implementing strategies that feel really good for them. They're running events, they're leading podcasts, they're coming up with new creative sales strategies that feel really good for them. And at the end, if we look at that, it shows in the results. Because if you're doing what feels really good and selling in a way that is you, authentically you, then yeah, you're going to be making more money. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I think hearing it that way like starts to like rev up inside me of being like, I wish I knew this sooner. I wish I knew this sooner, and knowing that I don't have to manipulate sales. I don't have to do all these sleazy tactics because I said it this in another podcast. We're not for everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, a strong sales process is a really great way to know, like, you know, are you meant to work with these people? And I think what you said, like what you want, like, you know, it's really important to know what you want and achieve and to have a goal. I think that's something that has always landed with me is like, what do you want to achieve? And that gets me more excited about the selling.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's through that I've been able to, I don't know, I guess just change my idea around it. Mm-hmm. And I think changing my idea around it has allowed people to buy with my authentic way of being. So people struggle with that. People struggle at the whole authentically you, being unique, being yourself. And I think it's because they attach who they are to what they do. And I know that I still struggle with it, but I knew I used to talk to you about that and saying like, I feel like I'm just a content creator. Like, who am I to do sales? I'm just a content creator. Who am I to do a podcast? I'm just a content creator. Who am I to do video and editing? Right. And so it's through realizing that, I mean, people are going to buy off of you because of who you are, not because of what you do. So building who you are is much more important. And then when we know who we are, it's that confidence that we have. So I guess for me, it's in your space where you're at right now, what's a challenge? Like, what's really like the hardest part? Mm-hmm. Like you said already, like you mentioned one, which is the easiest and the hardest part. Just be yourself.
Yeah. I think another part, if we're talking about like getting technical with the sales process and the work that we're really doing with our clients, is a sale doesn't happen in a one-time decision. I mean, there's a lot of times where, someone will land on your Instagram page and instantly they know, I'm meant to work with this person. We had a similar interaction. And so it does happen like that sometimes. You get sales through a reel, through an Instagram. But if you pull back and zoom out from the process, there's a lot of layers and steps that happen from the time a buyer, lead, prospect is introduced to your brand, to the moment that they've paid you, to the moment that you've delivered the service or the product, to afterwards. And even then, there's still more of a process. And I think sometimes we just think it's the sale. But if you look at it, there's so many layers to the sale. I mean, I can give you an example. One of the corporate teams that we work with right now, their sales process, there's like 15 steps, internal steps to what happens to nurturing these deals that are bigger numbers. So we're talking higher ticket items, but they're not, you have one sales combo and it's done. And I think if you're listening to this and you sell a product or service, maybe just zooming out and thinking, okay, do I even have a sales process? Like, what does that look like? I mean, if I wanted to get technical, you probably know this too. There's like a marketing stat that people have to see and know about your brand somewhere between like 7 to 9 times to even, be in that buyer decision-making part of the process. And so what happens? How are you, air quoting, nurturing these leads or these clients? You do a great job of that through social because of how active you are every day. Your sales process, you're already following that. You may not even know, where you're nurturing people, DMing them, welcoming them. That's part of the sales process. And so I think being really intentional about curating a really lovely process for the buyer. So when somebody lands on your page, your website, talks to a rep from your company, what's the journey that they go through? And is it an enjoyable process? Would it make them know, like, and trust you? Would they feel like, I relate to you. I trust you with my business. I trust you with my credit card. I want to work with you. And so sometimes I think we skip all of these and we just, we want the sale. We want to make money. There's a process. And that's why I would always suggest, like, create the buyer journey, really look at the client journey. What happens through this process? And are you treating your people well? When they come into your universe, do they want to work with you? And so that's the process that we're trying to cultivate, so that when people land on Sofia's page or land on this corporate company's website, that they feel that know, trust, and like factor, and that they want to move forward. They want to engage. I want to get on a call with you. I want to hear about what you have to offer.
That's so good.
Because you've curated the experience for me, for it to be that way.
Wow. And I didn't even realize that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. Now I'm like, I'm here thinking like,
Yeah, every day. And so for you, that would look different than someone else, right? Like another business, maybe my clients, they're not nurturing on social the way you are, and they're only running a sales rep with like CRM automations and sequencing. That works for that. So see how it can't be a one size fits all. It's like, okay, you're the content queen. It's literally easy for you to sell on social.
And like box yourself up like this.
Yes.
And like, this is how everyone's doing it. So I'm going to box and do this. Or this is how everyone's creating content. So I'm going to go like this and just create it this way.
Yeah. Like email marketing was never for me. Like my grammar is not even that great. Sometimes I have half sentences. Like it's not for me. So I'm not even going to try to run an email marketing campaign when I could just do a live 7 days a week. And that's more Gazzy, you know, like the energy's there. I want to do what feels right for me, not what works for Bob and Joe, you know, like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So good. It's so funny because I literally hear you all these things and I envision myself in a moment where I was like, I'm selling, but like, what am I selling? And then I'm selling at what price? Okay, $5, $7, $49, $59. And I remember the first number I came up and I was like, yeah, I'm going to charge this amount of money. You were like, no, you're not. So I charged, my first service was $565. And Gazzy was like, no, you have so much information, so much knowledge. You really know how to do this. So it's about charging your worth. And I think the reason why for me, basically, I got stuck into not charging more money because I didn't go to school. And my attachment was that because I didn't go to school, then I had no credentials or degrees. So how could I possibly like do something that's higher paying? And like people are going to want to see this and they want to see that. And the idea and the reality is I created all these thoughts in my head about what I thought I needed to be worthy of making money and charging my price and charging my worth. But I was already created that way. So like, can you talk about your business, the business owners or the corporate clients if you've helped, or anybody listening to this with charging their worth and really honing in on what they like, how they could be selling, but also how they could feel strong and firm in their rates and pricing?
Yeah, I think that's such a big part of it. And I will say that I find women have a harder time with this than men do. So my ladies, this message is for you. Like we got to up those prices. Yeah. We got to up those prices. And I'll tell you, I'm not one to say your service should be X amount. The number shouldn't come from me. And people think, okay, because I'm a sales consultant or a business coach, like I would have this number or this is how much you should charge. I think part of it, yes, there's some things that we want to take into consideration, like your time, the value, and the result that you bring. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But a big part of it is you really believing in yourself and claiming that. And I'll tell you, a lot of people I talk to, they will tell me they know they're undercharging before I tell them. Yeah. So it's already top of mind for them. It's not that they think like I'm not good enough to charge. It's almost like I feel like I should be charging more, but I'm not. And I'm like, but why are you not charging more? And then that's when you realize it's all of these thoughts that we were talking about. So let's go to results because we talked a little bit about that, like how to price yourself. I think it's unethical if you're just like putting numbers out there for the sake of putting numbers out there, like without any portfolio or results to back it up. And I've seen a lot of people do that in this space, by the way. And I think it's really it's untasteful if I'm being honest. And I think it's like, that's 2020 vibes when people are like posting their Stripe accounts and like, this is how much I made in a day. Like, oh my gosh. And listen, been there, done that. I just think that's untasteful. And it's like the money is for you. It's about you charging your worth and not for ego or fluffing and showing you're all that. No one really cares. It's about the result that you're delivering for people. And so when you charged $500 that first time for your content day, I think that was a great start because that's what you could get behind, right? Like you were like, okay, I could do 500. There was also a time where I could only get my energy behind charging 250 for a session with me. And now I mean, I have companies that are paying in the 20,000s versus the 200 that I started at. And that's part of the journey. I'm not saying that to say like, oh, we've made it. No, that's the entrepreneurship journey. You start somewhere. Yeah. So you start where you could get your energy behind.
So good. I'm like thinking like right away this thought. So wait, keep
going. Okay. You tell me.
No, I was like, I want you to tell us what was in your mind, like how you came up with this, because I think that would be more like, that would be practical for me, that I'm like, okay, you're saying this and I hear you, but what would be practical to me, and what would that thought be? Or like, how could I, that ask, like what you were just going to say, but can you give me an example?
Yeah. Like how should I go to how we got from when I was selling $250 sessions to now working with, like 20, like corporate clients in the 20K.
That just even baffles my mind. Like how the heck could you go from making $200, like let's say, like I just envisioned $200 in cash and then like $20,000. Like,
and I was terrified when I was charging $250, by the way. I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, are these people going to pay me this much? Like I felt nervous to send the invoice. I was nervous about them not paying, like, and that's part of the journey. So I'll share with you a little bit that happened. A lot of the work was mindset, right? Yes. Like really believing that I was someone who could charge that price and also be of value at that level and see myself in these corporate rooms with these high level clients who are making multiple 6, multiple 7 figures coming to me and saying, we would like to hire you. So a lot of that was the identity work and really working on myself. Yeah. But a lot of it was working on my craft. And I think we need to talk about this. Like working on my craft, because I've seen people sell and not deliver.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I say working on your craft, like I can with integrity sell a $20,000 package because I can with integrity and with confidence say that I will bring that ROI for my clients with ease time and time and time again. If I did not feel that, it would not be ethical and I would not be in integrity with selling that price. You feel me?
Yes, that is so huge.
So where's the transformation from here to here? Well, I got good at my craft. And you were one of the clients that helped me get good at my craft. Like when you started working with me, I was charging a couple thousand, right? So I started charging, but with every client, I was like, I want to make sure that the value that this client gets is minimum 5-10x what they paid to work with me. So I'm like, okay, if this person's paying $4,000 to join this program, I want them to leave this program with at least X amount of knowledge and money made, but also I know that the work that I do has ripple effect. I mean, we worked together now 3 years ago and I'm still part of your journey. So I know that for a fact, but I think working on your craft is a bit underrated because it's like, you got to get good at your craft to charge for your craft. Right. So I'm in masterminds. I'm hiring coaches. When new apps and technology come out, I'm learning. I'm investing in that. I'm hiring experts to teach me how to do certain things because I know the better I get at my craft, the better result I can bring for my clients. And so the more I can start charging. And so part of it is like, believe in yourself, but also don't believe in yourself where you're selling and not delivering.
Yes.
So make it focused about service and value and results. The better result you bring for your clients, the more you can charge. So we've done that with your offer, right? Like, how can we make your offer even better so that when X person comes to you for one content day, your ROI is 10X every time.
Interesting. I think like that's such an interesting concept. And I love that like integrity piece. Because how do I expect somebody to pay me for something I don't even feel like I'm good enough for?
People don't pay you. They won't. And that's why people don't close deals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. That is amazing. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that are either going through the sales process and they're just like, nothing's working. Nothing's working. And it brings it back to like being authentic, and people are not going to buy from people that are shoving things in their face or they don't know, or that, I mean, it shows in your fruits. It shows on how you show up. And if you show up blah and like why am I going to even want to work with you?
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's something that I've been focused on too is, what are my ideal clients? And for me, selling to those ideal clients is like a conversation like this of me being like, here's what I do, versus something more, I guess, formal, because I already know my audience and how I would deliver to them.
Yes. And your audience is attracted to you.
Yeah.
For
me.
And so in this podcast, you're authentically you. Like this is obviously unscripted. It's like you and I chatting convo.
Yes.
So if obviously people are attracted through this, then like that's who you're meant to work with.
That's who I'm meant to work with. Yeah. I love that. Cause and that's the thing is remembering that we have been led to work with these people like that we get. So again, down to not being a disservice, down to this being our calling, we get to work with these people. We get to sell, we get to talk about this. Imagine all the other things we could be doing, but we get to do this.
Yeah. And so let's talk about a habit of that. Cause you asked me like, let's sprinkle in some technical stuff that we could give value to the listeners who are here. So I know we talk a lot about like attracting clients and like having clients sign up overnight and all those things are great. But if I were to boil it down to looking at some of the most successful sales reps, companies, and even people that I've worked with, I can find a habit that is consistent in all of them. And I'll share two actually. I thought it was one, but two is coming to my mind. So I'll share both. One of them is called sales drive. It's this innate drive that we have, this fire that entrepreneurs have to just want to do it, get it done. We have that. I can't describe
Guilty.
it. Yeah, it's this fuel, it's the entrepreneurship drive. And so a good sales rep, a successful entrepreneur, a business that brings in a good amount of money and while helping people, they have sales drive. Their reps have sales drive. And then a habit, if we're talking about the habit, is inviting people to buy.
Okay.
Or what I would call having buying conversations.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example of this because I think knowledge is one thing, but when I share an experience or an example, it's kind of like, oh, that hit home,
it.
Right? Yeah, I get it. So
Okay.
I remember talking to an entrepreneur. She was a coach. She sent me a DM on Instagram and was like, Gazzy, like, I need help selling. Can you help me? So I was like, you got to ask a more specific question, first of all. Like, what do you need help with? Yeah, like, let's be specific. What do you need help with specifically? And she told me she wants more people in her program. She only has like 2 people in the program starting next week or something. Yeah. So yeah, of course, I want to help this person. So I started asking them a few questions. And one of the first questions I asked was, how many people have you spoken to? And how many people said no? How many people said maybe? Just so I can get an idea of like, is it the convos? Like what's happening? Yeah. Like where are the people falling off? Right. Yes. And she told me something and I love her and I love her for being honest. And she said, I've talked to 3 people.
Wow.
And so I'm like, how many people you want in the program? She wants 20 people in the program. She's talked to 3 people.
Wow.
So in my mind, it's like, you haven't done the habits that are in your control.
Yeah.
And the habits that are in your control are having sales conversations and buying conversations. And so that's whether that's DMs, whether that's sales calls, whether that's webinars, whether that's scheduled meetings, whether that's demo presentations, like that could look different for different businesses, contract send, whatever your key metric is that you're tracking, which again looks different for companies and entrepreneurs and everything in between there. But we're tracking something. How many people you're talking to. If you're not showing up and selling your service, people are not buying.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can't sit back and be like, why are people not buying? It's like, are you selling?
Yeah.
Are you selling? Are you showing up to talk about your service? Are you inviting people? Personal invites, DMs. And so a few weeks later, that program of that young lady that I spoke about sells out and she sends me another DM to tell me, oh my God, Gazzy, thanks. And not thanks to me. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
She's the one who did it, but it was the habit of, if you want to sell more, you got to sell more. And I think that's sometimes where we don't do what it takes. And the game of sales is one of those things where you don't got to do it all, but it's a few habits. And posting on social media, like you preach about, is one of them. Yes. And having buying conversations is one that I preach about. And you got to be doing both if you want to make money.
Okay. Wow. I'm like, okay, interesting. And I really want this to like, I feel like when it comes to strategy, it's like so high level that we almost have to like digest it And so, okay, you've given these practical tips. Let's say there is someone, we're about to wrap up. So let's say it's somebody in the audience listening. They're really like, okay, so I've talked to 3 people. Fine, I'll talk to a 4th person and let's see if I get it. And it still doesn't work. What message can you affirm or empower or clarify or eliminate from someone listening to this that they can be like, wow, like I hear you and thank you for like even sharing these sales tips? Because you're right. We can read so many sales books, go to sales conferences, but there's the reality of sales that to me, I think you've mastered it, but you also help your clients as well. So you do that for them. So in your head, excuse me. So in your head, you've cracked the cheat code. So tell us, I'll say 2 things, not just one. 2 things, I was going to say one, but I feel like there's more layers to the conversation. 2 tips or 2 suggestions that they could start implementing and taking action right now.
Okay, the first thing that comes to my mind is detach from the sale. Too many people are like just in it to close the sale and for the money, and it's phony and people see right through it. No one wants to buy from you if you're there to sell them. No one wants to be sold to. So if you're in the business of just wanting to close that sale to get that commission or that number, you're not going to make it far in sales. And so I would say detach from closing, detach from the sale, come back to service, what we were talking about earlier. So that's the first thing. Then if I would say the second thing, this is based on my own experience. When I look at the largest negotiations I've been a part of and the biggest deals that I've closed myself in my own experience, those were the deals where I was being 100% me. So I was cracking jokes.
Yes.
I was throwing in, like funny snippets of like my cat, bringing my cat in the convo. And like, if you were to show a traditional sales coach or consultant this, they would think it's so unprofessional. They're thinking about like you're coming in suited in,
color,
with
everything,
your points, your homework done. And don't get me wrong, I'm there with my homework. I've done the nurture. I've done my research of the decision makers at the table. But if I think of what really close the deal, like when they're like, we're in, it's because people connected with Gazzy and they saw me beyond just this sales consultant. They connected with me on that human to human basis.
So
and I know that I'm not the only one. There's lots of research in the field of sales to also back this up, but I'm the example of that. When we're talking about deals that are well into the 100,000s, I would think, oh, there must be some cheat sheet, crack code
or something wrong.
Yeah, like there just must be a step-by-step process that I can follow. And it's to be yourself.
To be yourself.
To be yourself, to build real connections.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Wow. And all I can think of is like, don't be afraid of standing in a room and being one of one. Like if you are one of one in that sales call, and if you show up in that space and you're one of one, you trust and believe and know that the person that's you're supposed to work with is for you and you're for them. And I think that you just sharing all these tips and nuggets about service and about showing up as yourself and about, redefining what it is that you bring, but also what you don't want to sound like and what you don't want to be receiving, and finding that integrity aligned to, what you're doing and what you're helping other people with is so, so key. I think there's so much to this conversation. We really do need a part 2. And I feel like you need to tell us what you want to hear. And because truly sales is one of a kind thing. I mean, I'm not saying I've mastered it, but I love just the authentic conversations and connections I have. And we end up just like knowing that we're perfect for each other through sales. It's like a relationship. So I look forward to seeing what you want to see and hear on the podcast part 2 with Gazzy. And even if you love this podcast, share it, save it, rate it 5 stars, and let us know in the reviews what stood out to you the most and what you want to know more about, because this can truly be life-changing for you if you apply everything that you just said, because the relationships, the authenticity, showing up for yourself, because that that's how your audience is going to find you, but because you have a unique distinction to you. So Gazzy, I can't wait to see everything that you're going to be creating. When this podcast comes out, everyone needs to run and get themselves a sales consultant and a sales, like even just your methodology, and just to be able to just get their mind blown, essentially. Because for me, when I hear you talk about sales, it feels like I'm just fitting a piece into a puzzle. And I'm like, oh, she just made it feel so easy. So I don't know if there's anything else that you want to say and you want to just leave anyone off with, but
I just want to thank you.
Oh.
Yeah. Thanks for being of service and creating this podcast so that, yeah, we can remind people that we're one of one, and even to remind myself, yeah, I'm one of one.
Yeah,
Thank
you are.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And I cannot wait to see you on the next episode of the One of One podcast.